Easy E. I normally ask you this very next question just because it's the next thing I normally say, but I genuinely mean it this time. How are we?
Do you know what? For someone who did 19 training runs and the 20th being the marathon, I am actually in good nick. I have no business feeling as good as I do today.
I get you. I think that's because you've got the first one done on your belt before. I don't think there's any sort of pain like that first marathon pain. So if anyone's listening to this podcast and they did Dublin Marathon and it was their very first marathon, they're like, how's he all right after 19 runs? I'm an absolute heap. It's literally that for, I mean, I felt the first one for weeks and months to come, but your body does get more accustomed to it, even if you have been pulled back and training for different reasons like you've been. Yeah, but my body itself, it's stiff and sore, obviously. It's stiff and sore. Like, I'm not going to go out and do another 20K today, but I think by the end of the week, I should be close to 100% again.
It's kind of, for me, like I've done a bit of a leg day yesterday. Like, I'm moving around fine. Going downstairs, though, you kind of realize, oh, yeah, these are tired. But apart from that, had a shit sleep last night now. And I think
Same.
That's more, one, the volumes of alcohol being one thing. But and two, in general, like your nervous system, everything is under severe pressure after the marathon. Like, you might be talking and feeling okay, but the body is working hard to repair and recover. So yeah, I had a terrible sleep. I woke up 3 or 4 times. So yeah, it was just weird. I woke up to go toilet at I thought it would be 7 o'clock in the morning. I was like, oh, that was a nice sleep. Jeez, it must be nearly time to get up. It was 20 past 1. I was like, Jesus Christ.
That initial deep sleep.
Yeah, for once, like normally I'd be like, oh my God, I have so much more sleep to have. But this one, I was like, for fuck's sake.
It's got the light out of the scene for another half hour. I had a very, very similar experience. All right. I was in a hoop. But I suppose we were at to talk about the very end of the podcast. We're going to hit the intro music and go right from the very beginning of our Dublin Marathon weekend. Right after hit the intro music this week's episode of the Any Given Monday podcast. Let's go. I don't even know how to begin, Eric. I really don't. It was a hell of a weekend. It was a hell of a day. I'd say first and foremost, we're very, very lucky once again with the weather, because looking now today, it's a Monday afternoon as we record this with our hangover heads in us. Horrific rain. Saturday, same horrific. But yet, God must love the Dublin Marathon, because this is my 4th one and each one has been sunny. It was threatening during it, a little bit of drizzle, but apart from that, it was a good day out.
It was unbelievable. In fact, I know we're getting probably ahead of ourselves. I felt the sunshine in the park. I was like, oh, it's warm. Because it's never from the one I've done 2019, it wasn't that warm that quick. I didn't feel it get warm till probably through the halfway mark on the last one, but it was warmer early anyway, definitely.
Yeah, but it was one or two.
Absolutely beautiful.
There was 1 or 2 comments like, fair play, guys, in the marathon, especially the heat. I was like, the end of October heat? And I'm like, actually, yeah, because I don't remember sweating as much as I did in that marathon. Like, even the first couple of K, I'm like, oh, this is a thing now. I know it's the end of October. It's like, lads, what are you complaining about the heat for in the end of October? But it was definitely a warmer marathon than you would have expected, or it felt that way anyway. I don't have the exact data beside me in that one.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was the no breeze as well. Like in terms of running conditions, it was absolutely perfect. We couldn't complain about headwinds, couldn't complain about soggy shoes. A little bit of heat, but it was enjoyable heat. It wasn't extreme heat. The only reason it wasn't enjoyable was because you knew you had to do 42 kilometers, so you'd nearly rather the cold just to keep you cool. But what a day for a run. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, me and you I don't know if we went over the top of the discussion beforehand about so Eric said you were very nervous and stuff before. I'm like, that's not nerves, that's excitement. And for some reason that was just a topic of conversation for the next half hour in the car before the event. And I was afraid to ask, how are you truly feeling before the race?
Not as nervous, and I will say nervous. I know it's excitement, and it is nervous excitement, but my armpits were sweaty standing there at the start line. One, because we had jumpers on, because we insisted we were bringing our jumpers, even though we said black bags, and it was probably too warm for them. It was lovely. I was definitely colder at the start line at other marathons. Definitely colder at the start line. It was nice and mild. I was I suppose I was venturing into the known but the unknown. I knew every corner, I know every stretch, but I didn't know what I was going to be capable of. And to me, that's where the plan was the plan. And no matter what happened, I was like, just stick to the plan, see what happens. And we'll figure it out. If we have to walk, run, and bite the pride, fair enough, we'll do it. And that was it. But yeah, I was kind of just, when you've done it before, you've done a 3:35, you're kind of like, I can't be over 4 hours. Like the ego is just like, don't be over 4 hours, you pathetic piece of shit. No, but it, like,
that was for you and your standard, what you said for yourself,
100%.
like, because some people look at our times go, here when they're doing the 2.5, 3 hour and stuff. So it's all relative to what you've done before and what you feel like you could do in the day.
Yeah, no, it was, and it's just my own personal standard. The under the 4 would be what I would call my limit of don't be slower than that for me. But yeah, no, it was. I was a bit nervous, but into the crowd, and this was the first time I didn't see Ozzy. He was close.
Yeah.
But I didn't see anyone, and I was like, it was actually a bit weird. I was kind of like, oh, I'm running on my own. He must have heard all the hate I was giving him. But no, yeah, it was the first time we just said our usual goodbyes and you shimmied up. Now, it probably felt like you walked away ages in front of me. You started you crossed the line probably about 2 meters ahead of me. I was still behind you, kind of thing. But after that, turned the first corner, I didn't see you again.
Yeah, no, you froze. I thought you froze there. Sorry. That start, I wasn't high up as I thought I was. I was doing my ducking and weaving and all the rest to get through the waves and stuff. It was very jam packed. I remember two of us go at the end of it go, that's what happens when there's 25,000 people now in the event and it's gotten bigger and bigger. But I was actually looking at numbers. There was probably less doing this one than there was before. There was only a little under 15,000.
15,000. Where was the other 10?
The other 10 were gotten for a different reason. Well, you kind of like. It's a weird one because I'm seeing all the different arguments and stuff online about changing names and all the rest. But most of the people had gotten their tickets since, 2019 or maybe 2020. And then some of them would change their names and stuff. And, a lot can happen 2-3 years as well as those last 6 to 8 weeks before Martin. You're going to have a dropout. Like, I think there would have been usually 16, 17,000. I could be corrected on that. But there was only best part of 15, but I didn't feel that style of race. Like I was trying to weave through people, trying to settle into pace and stuff like that. And I was a little bit slower. I thought in the first round, it took me I think it was into the Phoenix Park before I caught up with the 3:30 bubble. And I wanted to stay ahead of it. I'm like, oh my God, it's going to be one of those days. But
it was one of those things. Is it kind of like a gym membership? I was kind of wondering like, now that we've moved on to an age of technology, whereas if you want to change a name, it should be boop, 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 click, done, paid the €10 fee, and that person then goes and collects it. Is it kind of like a gym membership where they're kind of banking on the 4,000 not turning up?
Yeah, I'd say so, all right. The other side of it, they don't want to change the name because, one, I've heard the argument being like health and safety, so your number's assigned to you. So they look at it. At the same time, you have the back of the paper, though. Like,
I get that, right? But say in the week before, the expo hasn't even opened. I'm doing it, you're not. I say I can't do it. Here's the details of the person that's going to be doing it. As soon as you hit send, obviously automatically the details change. Sean Coffey's now this, email address, ping, go and collect. Because I didn't have a race number until I went to the RDS.
That's the thing I was going to say. Yeah, neither of us did. Did they print out the name in front of us?
Yeah,
because that was done very fast. We didn't have to go to. So for people listening, like we were just told, like there's a load of line of volunteers, and first chance I gotta say it, the volunteers, unbelievable job,
absolutely amazing,
absolutely class. But there was a big line of people, and it's just like whatever person was free, okay, you pop into them. So it wasn't alphabetical order as you'd see in other people. And we already had our assigned race numbers. All it's just basically there you are. There's your code. Scan it. Bang, that's the number now assigned to you for the race day. So that sounds like it's very easy to change names and that.
Yeah, and that's why I'm just wondering. There's a few little criticisms I'll have now, and I think if it was the first one, I wouldn't have many. But now that we've done it a few times, we'll talk through it. There's a few little things I'm like, this should be a bit better now at this stage.
Yeah, well, I suppose we'll go through the start of the race, the hills, heading up towards Christchurch and stuff. Yeah, that was steep enough. And then even though we said it in the podcast, coming through in the Stony Batter, going up that hill, I was like, this is longer than I thought, this fucking thing. Where's the Phoenix Park? And then that water station came out of nowhere and bodies were just cutting across me before taking that little side road off Stony Batter. There was no signs of nothing for it because I thought it was further on up the first one. I don't know if it was just people standing up a table, what happened, but people just started cutting across. I'm like, oh, I'm going to go barrel through people.
It's kind of my first criticism.
Right.
At 3 kilometers, do you need a water station? Really? I don't know. I found at the end of the race, I couldn't find a water station if I wanted one. And that's when you were like, oh, there has to be water coming soon.
Yeah, he gets a 24 mile and there's a small bit there and there's not much else after that. I mean,
no,
I actually...
Like through 30K, there's that carnage water station. What a terrible place to have a water station. There's 2 years in a row I've been body checked at water stations because people are panicking. And the hammy nearly went again. And I was like, I don't believe it, not again. This stupid water stuff. So yeah, like it's, I think through 5K, because you have one in the park and that's a reasonable place that everyone's kind of spread a little bit. There's more room in the park. It's nice and open. Great place for people to take on water. 100%. Start there. Absolutely brilliant. Then after the park, you know, they're realistic, or maybe people are happy to have it there, but getting water in Stony Batter and then 3K later getting water again, like surely one of those water stations can go over to 35 kilometers or you know, like somewhere on that back stretch where they're just long straights, you know, like and that's one complaint I have. But you asked about the nerves. That kept me very, very diligent on my pacing because I followed the 340 balloon.
Right.
And I followed that kind of for the first 2K because I knew we're trending downhill to the river. As we turned to Stony Batter, I said, okay, white balloon, I'll see you later. And then I switched on to heart rate. Pace was irrelevant. And I was hitting the 130 into 140, and then as we started climbing, as soon as I hit 150, I said, whoa, slow it down. And then just monitored 153 was the maximum I allowed it to go to up the hills, and then it'll settle down 149. I maintained a heart rate of 153 up until Chapel Lizard, between 145, 153, whatever the peak or trough. And I did that off heart rate, and my pace managed to be 520, 540, 550. You know, it was varying all the way through the different stages. And it kept me really, really disciplined. Chapel Lizard Hill, 170 something all the way up. But then I was conscious that as I crested the hill, steady on, just let it just figure yourself out. And got on the water, got on this, got on that. And it kept me very, very disciplined for the first half. Very disciplined for the first half.
We are studying contrast. I say that first turn where you couldn't see him anymore, that was the last time I was in the 150s in the heart rate. I was 160 and beyond. That my Garmin tells me that the race I averaged a 168 and 181 was my highest. It was just all pace. It took me. I was actually struggling from 4 or 5K. I'm like, I'm not going to maintain a good pace. And then when I got to Castleknock and the bands and all started playing, the band was playing Eye of the Tiger. I'm like, yeah. Then I start dropping down to a 4:45 and a 4:40. I'm like, am I going too fast? And at that stage, I'm like, you know what? Let's just go for it. And I know I've done that before, and it's ended up horrific for me. But I was just like, let's go for it. Let's see how long I can last this pace. And I start fluctuating between 440 and 450, trying to settle into that then straight through to the half. And I went over the under the bridge, up over at that Chapel Lizard hill, right at the end of Chapel Lizard. And he come back towards Inchicore. And I don't know where it comes from, but I was, in the zone with the pace and all the race, feeling good. And I swear to God, I heard a train. And I literally jumped and turned around. And your man's like, don't worry, that's over up the bridge above us. That's not the train coming this way. Because my head was just gone. I'm like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. I thought train was coming. I was like, well, the tracks, what's going on here?
I have to say, like, you don't realize, and every year we say it, but from the river to the top of Knockmaroon Hill, you are climbing. It is a climb the entire way. And the nicest downhill is in that Phoenix Park by a mile. It's just so long downhill and it's absolutely lovely. But met one of the listeners. I'm going to give a shout out to James. I came out from behind a tree from toilet break number 2, and it was the first time I've taken a whistle in the marathon, and I did it twice in the first 10K. I kind of figured that if I didn't just jump off behind a tree in the park, if I was waiting for Portaloos or I couldn't do it in a street or anything, I was like, look, at least if I get it out of the way here, and if I stop in the 10K while I'm still fresh,
fair enough,
it won't feel like I've stopped, because there's something about stopping when you go through 30K. You're like, I can't stop now, so got it out of the way. But I met James from Donegal Town, was one of the listeners. He was like, "Oh, you're Eric." I was like, "Yeah, that's me." And he was like, "I listened to the podcast." It was mad. I've met a couple of people who listened to the podcast, but James got me through, I suppose, towards the halfway mark. And I was getting to Chapel Lizard Hill. I kind of had to tell, I was like, "James, look, heart rate's rising here." I was like, I'm just going to have to let you go here for a minute and get into the hurt locker as we get up the hill, and I'll talk to you in a bit. And and then we came through the halfway mark. And then I was just in the zone. Through there. And James, if you're listening, I apologize if I came across as rude after a certain time, but there comes a time where you just have to close the door and just follow the hash markings in the middle of the road and just switch off for a kilometer or two.
It was surreal because this is obviously our first podcast. This is the first Any Given Run Day podcast of us doing a Dublin Marathon, because before it was 2019 and we instead podcast during 2020. But a couple of stages, hey, I had one lad cruising up by me around 35K, fist bumps, Seán, Any Given Run Day podcast. And I was just slouching, going up towards that hill. I'm like, oh my God, right. I'm after being noticed in the podcast. I'm doing a running podcast. I better set a better example here. Chest up tall. Yeah, I'm doing all right. Soon he was gone. I'm like, oh my God. And I swear within a minute, someone else was like, hey, Seán, Any Given Run Day podcast. I'm like, oh my God, this is class. Now, it only happened 5 or 6 times throughout a race in front of, we said 15,000 people and so many people watching and stuff. But even to hear those things and that people are listening to the podcast, it was such a huge boost. Because I didn't even have my name on my number. So when people said something to me because they actually knew me from the podcast or from work or a few other things like that. So it's a hell of a boost when you get that, and the people that are listening that did shout at us or even mention the podcast was pretty cool. So anyone that's listening, I'm not going to go through all the names because I will forget some people. Thank you very much for that. That was really cool.
Yeah, it was cool, and it was just nice to see people out suffering as well, and it was good. Food wise, how did you get on in the first half?
So food wise, I had the 4 gels. So I had 3 gels in Galway. I said I'd take the 4th gel with me just in case, because the hills and all the rest. And then the Lucozade stuff. Once or twice the Lucozade cups, I just threw it, and it was like, I think more went into my eyeball than into my mouth. It was so horrific. I was like, so much for laser eye surgery. But then, I seen all the cups and stuff all over Dublin, people throwing the stuff all over the place. I know it's a different tangent and all the rest, but it's just all messy and stuff. But I had my first gel probably around Castleknock, and I had some of the salt stick as well at that stage, because I knew soon after that was the Lucozade station. And then I knew another Lucozade station was the halfway mark. And then I kept the 3 gels for the last half. And we'll get into that near the very end. We talk about that home stretch because it definitely hit me one way anyway. But I did that was my strategy then. I had a different strategy, but as it was going on, I was like, there's a few Lucozade stops here. Try and have what we have, little subs of water here on. And then I wanted to have more of the gels the second half, but I also didn't want to. I wanted to have that boost, but I didn't want to wait too late on it, because then it means next to nothing. So I was trying to get that timing right, and I still don't know if I did. Yeah,
just before Chapel Lizard, I was handed the 750ml bottle of Lucozade, and I took as much mouthfuls as I could, because I was not carrying it up the hill. But it felt like such a waste to be letting go of the Lucozade. It felt like, so I understand why they were doing the cups.
Yeah.
But equally, like, trying to drink out of a pint glass while you're running is like having an ashtray on a fucking motorbike. You can't do it. So fair play to anyone that did. Some people kind of did the slow down, duck neck, just sticking it out. And I was like, after that, I kind of given up on Lucozade. So I was like, I see them cups, I'm not going near them. The little bottles of water and the salt tablets went down a treat. But yeah, I ate a lot in the first half. And I think
You
it's
had
something
Mars bars and all with you. You did an Aussie on it.
yeah. Now, my review on the Mars bars.
Right.
I couldn't breathe for about a kilometer. I took one bite out of it and I was chewing it for about a kilometer and there was caramel stuck to the roof of my mouth. And I was like, right. And I did it during the crowd and people were like, go on, Eric. So I thought that was the end of the Mars bars for me then as well. So I tried them, didn't work.
Yeah.
But as I was coming up towards Kilmainham, there was a very nice guy out with a massive box of bananas. And people just kept bypassing. I could see it for hundreds of meters. And everyone that bypassed, I was like, yes, there's guaranteed to be bananas.
How'd you have one?
Oh, it was magic.
Really?
It was absolutely magic. Oh, it was so soft. Just sat in the side of your mouth, pretty much dissolved on its own. And I just chewing it away and then got it into a bin. Eventually found a bin, got the banana into it and the skin into it. But it was brilliant. So I kind of had a little boost because I'd had my gel, I'd had my long jelly, I'd had a banana, I'd had a bite of a Mars bar, I'd had my second gel, a salt tab, and I was only at 18k at this stage. I was like, I have fueled very well because the banana was a Brucey bonus. I was like, I've had more than I've bargained for. So
yeah,
I was feeling all right coming up to half. Yeah.
And then when did you like? Was there a certain stage after that where like I think no matter what happens, you're gonna hit it. I definitely hit a wall at 34, 35k. I know we talked about the podcast last week, but there's no wall, But literally, Clonsky starts to gradually incline from there. I start my pace. That was the first time I started to hit below the 5 minute, and that's when the struggles really start for me. And I was trying to have the extra gels and the Lucozade cup into the face again, and whatever I could come up. Did that happen for you at any stage around that point, or were you steady pace the rest of the way because of the nutrition you had?
I don't know what happened. I kind of went into my own world through the half. James was with me for a little bit. I actually don't know at what point I didn't see James anymore. Because it kind of just, as you come out from the half, you're climbing all the way through up to Crumlin, and it is a hill. So you come up Chapel Lizard Hill, then you turn, you're heading for Crumlin Children's Hospital. You're climbing again. Even after, there's a few more little hills. Like it's pretty much climb. And then you start to kind of level out, descend with little climbs, rolling kind of climbs. But I was just kind of cruising along and I looked behind me. And I kind of thought I had a couple of minutes ahead of the balloon. I wasn't too sure what pace I should be running at because my next complaint, the markers that they gave you from the marathon were in miles. And sure, I run in kilometers an hour. So... I had no idea what pace I had to be at different times, and then I'd put it on upside down. So trying to read it upside down. And
you told me that, I was like, you donkey. I was like, looking at it going, oh no, he actually did put it upside down.
yeah. But having it in miles, and then I'm trying to pace that off kilometers an hour, and I hadn't a breeze. But so I looked around at one point through 25k, and the balloon was behind me, and I was like, I kind of got a disheartening fright. I was like, oh, fuck, they're there. But I kind of just drifted into blue and I recognised one of the pacers, Brian Ankers. He actually paced me in Dingle.
Brilliant.
He was doing the 4 hour and I just said, cheers, Brian, we're at it again. And he just started laughing at me. He was like, what are you doing here again? So we had a 500 meter worth of a chat. And he was like, well, how are you feeling? You all right? And I was like, at that point, that's what I said to him. I just said, I'll get to 35k and then I'll see how I'm fixed for a sprint finish. So, and that was through 26k, I think. And I was like, and now I kind of took stock of it then. I was kind of like, I actually am okay. Like I'm not too bad. And then I went back into the zone again, stayed silent. Kind of went through the crowds. The crowds were really on top of you this year as well. Yeah. I don't know if you noticed it, but it was because I was kind of running on the outside and I was kind of jostling for position in the group. Both a bad thing because it kind of messes with your rhythm, and a good thing because you're distracted. You're more worried about not kicking ankles and not doing this and that as you're running with the group. So I found myself jostling for position for a little bit, and then came through 30k, and I was still there. But then I started noticing just people walking, people getting sick, someone collapsed, and I was like, uh-oh, is this the moment? And that's when I came across the water station. I was like, I'll get water on board here at 30k.
Yeah.
And it's an absolute shit show. I hate that water stop. People just panic and they're like, water, and they cut across you and body check you and everything. It's and it's a narrow spot. I don't like it. I don't like
well, that's where the whole, you know, the race truly begins in that last 10, 12k. So it's the last chance to get water before the race truly begins. It's probably what people are thinking, that they need to get the water and supplies in there. I can only assume, or people are like, water. It could be either or. It could be either.
Yeah, it was mad. It was, but it was cool. And an element to me that I didn't really get was when we were on my own, it was fine. When I picked up the balloon, when the pacing balloon was coming through, the crowds went wild. And you kind of got to stand up on the back of the neck, goosebumps as well. And you're kind of like, this is cool. And until like you were rammed in and there was kids like slapping you in the side of the head, trying to you know, encourage you on.
Those kids.
But my heart rate would rise up 2 or 3, 4 or 5 beats per minute as I come through the crowds. One, out of fear of running into someone on the side and tripping up or doing something. But yeah, it definitely works.
Especially with the crowds, and you know, the DJ had a good song. I definitely felt it. For like we've said before, music is cheating, and I fully believe it after Essex. You hear the good song and stuff, and the heart rate went up, but it was in a good way because you kept pushing it a little bit faster. You felt great about it, and then be a little dip after gone. But you'd have like some classic rock songs and stuff, and then I can't remember where it was, but all I heard as it coming towards it, crowds there, big turn, DJ there, and all I heard was Baby Shark, do, Baby Shark, do. And I can't remember, there was a crowd around 15, 20 people with yellow t-shirts. I don't even know what was on, because there was almost tears coming down my eyes, laughing and also in pain. And they're all like, Mommy Shark, do, Mommy Shark. That was stuck in my head for the next 4 or 5k.
Like there's some contrast in the towns you run to. As you're coming through Crumlin, there was Tiesto blaring, and your man like, go on, Marty! Yeah, what the boy. I was like, this is like a rave, just missing the glow sticks. And then you go through another area, like I said, it's Baby Shark, and well done, guys, you're almost there, you're doing great. Instead of, go on, you good thing, yeah.
Such a study of contrast, it's great.
3 miles in the difference.
Yeah.
It's absolutely brilliant. But yeah, no, it was good. So that was me up to 30k. How are you then through the half?
Onto the half, I was feeling good. I was around the 140. I think 142, 143 around the half. And I was like, okay, it's feeling good. But I knew I had to pull back at that stage. I was getting my 440s, 445s. And I was like, I'm not maintaining this. I'm going to have to be readjust a bit and try and get a little bit closer to 5, settle into a 455. I kept thinking that if I stayed under the 5 for as long as I could, I'd easily get the 330. And then somehow the time just got away from me. I don't even know how, because like in the last 4 or 5k, I was like, oh my God, I might make it. Whereas I thought I was comfortable with it then. And I only went over 5 a couple of times, I thought. Obviously, it was a lot more than that. I must have missed a couple of buzzes. I was like, oh my God, I'm after dropping the pace significantly that I mightn't get to the 330 at this stage. The Heartbreak Hill, that felt like a long, slow build hill to it. The hill itself is nothing. It's like, it's one of the, it's a little bit steep, but like there's so many people in, and like you said, they close in on you that it's not that much to get to the top of it. You feel great because you know you've got that long down to the N11 from there, but that wasn't the part. It was just the constant slow build to it, more so than the hill itself. I struggled with. How did you struggle with Heartbreak Hill, or did you struggle?
Yeah, there's actually a climb, probably about I'll guess 3k before it. It kind of shakes you out. And there's a water station. There's a nice downhill afterwards, but there is a climb before that kind of lets you know that, oh yeah, we're here now. And that was a funny one, because I had kind of was in front of the balloon, slotted toward the back of the balloon, kind of jostled me up to be a beam the balloon. And after that hill, I was kind of like, gee, I don't feel myself having to have my elbows up anymore. I looked around. There was only about 15 of us left with the balloon, whereas when I picked it up through the half, we're talking a good 100, you know, like I was like, where the hell did everyone go? So, and you know what? Weirdly motivating. I was kind of like, I still feel fine. What is going on here? I was
Was
like,
this the 340 balloon?
this is the 350 balloon.
Oh, 350. So it was.
Yeah.
I would assume that a lot of people were aiming for the 340 and 350 to start, so that when the eventual pull off would come, they'd aim for that under sub 4. I know I did when I did it.
Yeah, well, look, it was similar to what I was doing. I knew if I stuck with the 350 balloon, I'd make it under 4 hours with time to spare. And yeah, it was great. Now, when we were coming to that hill, forget the name of the townland, I was like a beam with the balloon, but I was kind of aware again. I was like, heart rate's in the 160s now, but we've only 10k to go, so let's see what we can do. And as they came to the hill, I was like, I'll slow off the pace, I'll catch them on the downhill. And this was the nicest part for me. And it was like a little breeze just blowing in your. It was just the little bit I needed. As we came to the base of the hill, started climbing, the pacer says, all right, lads, we'll just slow it back here now until we get to the top of the hill. And it was right at the pace I wanted to go at. And I was
Brilliant.
like, oh, I'm with them. I'm
The prayers been
answered. And it was slap bang on what I had slowed it down to. And that just gave me this burst of, I am with these for the next little while. It was absolutely brilliant.
I suppose we'll push on towards these last 2-3 miles, because if anyone listened to the Top 10 Tips podcast, I had said to you that the race to me is, and it was in 2019, it's a 24-mile race. When you get that last 2.2 miles, it's just bliss, because you do see the crowds building up, you soak it in, you know you've done it, and everything's all good. And what a crock of shite that was, because I was the complete opposite today. I struggled. For the first time in my life running, my head went, as in I felt lightheaded. And the bodies at this stage, there was more people walking and sideways walking and their legs cutting straight and just like on their hands and knees to the side or stretching their hamstrings than there was actually running. It felt like, that's probably a bit of an exaggeration, but there was a lot of bodies that had dropped during those last 2 miles. And usually it's there to carry you, but my head was going, my hamstrings were seizing, my calves were seizing, my lower back was starting to get at me, like everything at that stage. And I was just like, if I stop once, it is a difference between a 3:30 and close to a 4-hour marathon, because I knew if I stopped once, that was it. I was not able to pick it back up again. So it was, as you would say, that to sum that up, I literally went at the hurt locker, and I didn't enjoy it as I'd done previous years. It was just, let's keep fucking going and having those conversations with yourself. Like, you're not stopping, pal. You got to find a way here.
Yeah. And I don't know about other years, or maybe it's just because it's so long, or I don't know, was I not paying attention the last time? I've never seen that many people on the deck in blankets in a heap. Like, I counted 11 bodies is all I'm going to call them, because there was nothing at home. They were in a jocker on the ground, and a few people starting to join them. And at one point, one of the pacers from our pacer, he was in it. He just pulled off the side and let the air out of his balloon. And I was like, oh, I was like, it was watching all this coming in to UCD, 38 into 39k. The last 5k essentially. I was with the balloon all the way into UCD, and that's when I seen all these people down, seeing all these people walking. I was like, how am I fixed? And then I was like, well, I've 5k and I've 10 minutes in the bank. I was like, we'll stick with them at least off this N11, and we'll take a right turn in, and we'll see how we go. Turned the corner, climbed with them, descended with them, came around the corner, got aggressive with a few people that were walking just to try and spur them on. I was like, come on, the fuck.
Yeah. Well, spur yourself on as well. Like, it's 50-50 in terms of who helps.
I turned onto the long straight, and I call it the long straight because I hate it, and pet hate of Irish life, Dublin Marathon. They need to put more distance markers on that final straight. Because one, my watch was telling me I had 400 meters extra than they were telling me I had to go. So I was trying to do the maths. When I came to 40k, I was like, what? It says I've only 1.5. So does that mean? And then trying to calculate. So I just kept telling myself I had 2K to run. No matter what I was at, I was like, oh, 2 more K. And then eventually I crossed the line. So I think it would greatly help for people to get a countdown, in the hundreds of meters, 500, whatever you have left, or even count up, go from 39.5,
The screen to mark it was cool with the last mile to go, the big massive screen and stuff, just put a pocket spin on that. That was cool. And seeing yourself like, hey, a little chuckle myself. And then I was back in the hurdle again. But to your point, I have a bit more of a countdown there would be class, especially because my head was gone. I couldn't calculate at that stage. I was just I knew I was at a certain pace. If I go faster, something's going to go in the body. If I go slower, I assume I can I have to stick at this pace and see what happens. But it's like you had talked about on Thursday, the midweek podcast, like crossing, it was fairly emotional. I'm not going to get into more detail. That was fairly emotional trying to cross, like special time and all the rest, and the year-long build to it. But then when I did cross, I went straight down my hands and knees. I thought I was going to get sick everywhere. I was in an awful way for a good hour afterwards. But there was a tent to your right, and there was just as many people going right into the medical tent as it was going left to go down and get in the medal. And you're seeing people with the wheelchairs, and it was like a proper war zone at the end of it. Just seeing the bodies and I heard about people afterwards and stretchers and the wheelchairs. And and then I had to lie down. I was looking around. I was pretty much surveying the carnage, and I had to hold the hamstring because the hamstring was cramping up. I was like, And I just had a good laugh and giggle to myself. I was like, why did we put ourselves through this? Because when I did Galway, now I know I did it 7 minutes slower four weeks ago. There was none of that. Like everyone came through and everyone was feeling good, and there was no one going to get medal. It was all just in, like it was like 5K and getting your goodie bag and on you went. But there's something, I don't know if it pushes, because the crowds, you push more than what you think you have. It just gets that extra little bit out of you that when you're done, you're completely screwed. But like this was one of those things where like I'd never, out of all the races I've done, even the 80K, I don't think I've pushed my body to the limits that I did on Sunday to get the time I got. Like I could not have gone, with the exception maybe the start trying to find my position through the crowds. There's nowhere in that race where I can honestly feel like I could have got an extra couple of seconds here and there, because I felt like it was just whatever was left, it was just gone, and I was in a brutal way at the end of it. Brutal.
Yeah, for me, I kind of took your approach of enjoy the last 3K.
Yeah.
When I turned for that home, I knew I hated that bit, and I said it before. I hate Chapel Lizard Hill, and I hate that long stretch to finish because you don't know when it's going to end. And I, again, seeing people walking, seeing the bodies on the floor, I was like, and I was starting to feel it from 39K. I looked at my watch and went, the wall.
Here we go.
And I was with the balloon and I was like, I can hold this. I knew I could hold it, but I will not enjoy this finish. And I was like, I can just slow it down here by 10 to 15 seconds a kilometer and just make sure I can cross the line smiling, rather than drooling and growling, because it was getting to the drooling growling stage. Listen, a fantastic position to be in with 3K to go, to only really meet that decision of, we need to have an argument here with 3K to go is absolutely brilliant. I was delighted. But I think knowing I had my sub 4, knowing I had stuck with the balloon, knowing it wasn't going to be faster than the marathon I did before, I didn't care. So I said, you know what? I let the balloon head off and I just relaxed and I started looking up rather than down.
Yeah.
And I started seeing the crowds, the barriers, looking out for time. I know more about the last 3K than I know about the rest of the race, to be completely honest with you. I didn't see the watch ding a lot of the time. I didn't see much else because I was just staring at the path, staring at a little bit of crowd and just getting on with it. But slowing it down for that, because I was looking out for supporters and friends and families. The balloon was always in sight. Like I didn't fall off the wagon. I just added 20 seconds just to guarantee. I was like, there's no hammies gonna go. I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm gonna cross the line. I'm gonna see the fam or whatever else, and just enjoy the last couple of moments. And it was the first time I've enjoyed the finishing of the marathon.
I can't believe we both did a 180 on this one. I'm a little bit disgusted at myself because usually, and I'm sure the pictures come out in the next couple of days and all the rest, but usually I Galway, for example, there's always a smile on my face. Even the 80K, I'm laughing and smiling and all. I don't think there's going to be too many pictures of me I could be wrong, but I don't think there's going to be too many from Dublin, especially that last 5 to 10K. Where it's anything except just a horrible grimace on my face and just get through this one way or another. But it's just one of those things. I'm not going to get into too much detail how bad it was, but there was a point in my mind a half hour after this that went, I might not be able for a pint. And that really bothered me. But I recovered. I somehow recovered, and a great session afterwards. Like I said, with the toners, we got to see some people from the podcast as well, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. And then I had a little victory this morning, Seán.
Oh.
That Strava gave me my second fastest marathon, because at 42.2 kilometers, my watch dinged at 3 hours, 50 minutes and 0 seconds.
Brilliant. We gotta clap that one now.
Technically, I did a 3 hour 50 marathon, as I said I would try and do. But I was looking through a lot of times. Most people, I know it's a wide course, you could end up taking corners wider or less or whatever it is, but 400 meters is a lot. And I was looking at some of the professionals' times on Strava who are taking pretty much the straight line.
Yeah.
They were 200 meters over 42.2. Some of them were showing 42.4. Now, I know there can be discrepancies in GPSs and stuff like that, but when all of them are trending above, you kind of have to think, lads, maybe have a look at where the start and finish line is, will you? Because
200 is a lot for a professional that takes those lines. 200 is a lot. But same time, I'd rather be now sitting down here talking to you on the podcast. I'd rather be slightly over than under. Like Galway was somehow under for me it was only by I think I do an extra 10, 15 seconds of running down to the end of the barricade, jumping past people. Like, this watch is saying 42.2. I don't care. So an extra 15 seconds of that. Like, but if it somehow had been short, I would have collapsed anyway. I was like, the watch is not telling me the marathon, and I'm okay with that. I'm done. Yeah. I'm finished.
It's just a little, because we live in the world of stats and everything now. It's I just noticed. It's like, that's a lot further than you said it was.
400 meters that stage is a hell of a lot.
It's a long way, but absolutely brilliant. I was a shook puppy though. I was absolutely fine. I did cross the finish line as if I just done a 10K. I was high-fiving people, congratulating people, dragging a few people. I walked to my medal. Other people were holding on to barriers to their medal. I helped the guy all the way to get his medal, and then just kind of pushed him over to the side and said, chill out there for a second. Got my bag, got changed into my jeans, my socks, everything was functioning fine. It was only really when I sat down, I think the body was like, what the fuck did you do? And because I went in to get a round of drink, and the bar was 9 deep and warm, and I got really headed. I was like, oh no, I'm out, and the pints are going down slow. But yeah, about an hour later I kind of came around. I think it was just all the sugar and not proper food. I just needed to eat but couldn't, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's absolutely, like, that was not my quickest marathon, but that was my best marathon. It was the best planned, it was the best structure, the best discipline I've had. It was the most comfortable I've felt. The legs were fresh pretty much the entire way through. About, I think it was a 37K. I hadn't hit a wall, but I just started to feel it in my right glute, actually. And I was kind of like, starting to feel it there, but it's fine. And that was at UCD. But at that stage, I'm like, I'm home. it doesn't matter at this stage. But yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoyed everything. And it hurts me. Really does hurt me that I'm saying that with 4.5 weeks of training. Like, I did 19 runs, the majority of them less than 9K. And then
could be in you. But in fairness, you did a lot of cycling stuff beforehand that gave you somewhat of base. I know it's not the same, but it's not like you just went, like, if someone's listening to this, like, oh geez, if I hop off the couch for 4.5 weeks and I can get a marathon in, it's like, No, you've been there a couple of times before. I know you had your struggles this year training for the hard man, but you were training for that. You had your ups and downs there. You had your big missing the Malin head cycles of 5 days of pure hell of 170, 180k each day. So, that's a big
The
foundation for
cycling,
the 4.5.
the cycling definitely gave me the resilience.
And it also took
100%.
the impact and stuff off your
Yeah,
legs as well. Like,
yeah,
so, I
big
mean,
time.
it's not a bad
But
thing to do now indoors.
yeah, but running wise, it was just amazing to see, and I suppose it's a big plus to know that, okay, did some cycling 4 weeks and still able to manage that. So what am I capable of? Like
Yeah.
it leaves a question mark there to go, what is the next season going to bring for me? Do there's a bit of encouragement there to go, look, maybe don't have a fat Christmas. Let's start training now and see how far we can take it next year, see what you can do. But it is amazing. And like, I have to say that when you go through the Instagram afterwards in Strava, the buzz for me kind of drops away from what I've done. But it's so good to see what other people have done. The sub 3 hours, the sub
phenomenal.
3.5 for you, people taking on their first marathons, all the families coming out to support that person, giving it their best. And it's absolutely amazing. I love watching everyone else's reaction. I don't care. People are like to me, well done. I was like, yeah, I know. I was going for drinks anyway. But and I don't mean that in a bad sense. That novelty is gone for me.
But you'd put 4.5 weeks in. Had you gone for a 16, 20-week training program and all the rest and went for a PB time, you'd probably get those same feels and stuff right back in.
Oh, 100%. But I think more so the Dublin Marathon for me is watching the joy on everyone else now. I think it's seeing the happiness and the sadness and the hurt on everyone else's faces.
And it is both. Both comes with it, and that's almost the beauty of it. Like it's one of the signs. If it was easy, everyone would do a marathon. It's you kind of need to see that pain and stuff people come through. And look, hey, might as well as be in the past outright failure in a marathon. But you appreciate when you do it, and other people see how hard it truly is, and the joys and stuff you say from different people doing it. But I suppose you're talking about on a high right now with all that. This podcast was dropping on a Tuesday morning, and at the exact same, roughly around the same time that morning, you'll get a text, and I'll get a text. You got 48 hours. Are you going to sign up for Dublin Marathon next year?
Oh, absolutely. There's no question of, do you sign up? Of course, I dread the day I can't have the weekend free enough that I can give it a go. It's kind of just more, I don't know. Some people have a get together with their friends because this is the day they may have graduated and the reunion and this, that, and the other. Like, Dublin City Marathon is just a reunion for me now. It's an excuse to just see familiar faces and familiar places. Like it's absolutely brilliant.
Like seeing Ozzy at the end for a point. I don't think I'd seen him since 2019.
Yeah,
and there was that thing during the run with the back of your mind. Oh, geez, you're going a long way from COVID and all the rest, because that was the first really big one with all the crowds and everything else that came with it. But there's people there I hadn't seen in ages, and you were saying just throughout this podcast, seeing such and such from different events and all the rest. It's mad. The more of these events you do, you do get more of that kind of like I suppose running community, for not the hashtag or anything like that. But you do start to see more of the familiar faces each and every time you come out and do these things. So to your point, it is kind of like a reunion. I do see it more of it as it's a big weekend. To be honest, I do set it up now as a start of my week holiday in the winter time. So I'm off for the rest of the week now, and going away for a couple of days and all the rest. And this is the big start of all the training and everything I do. It always somewhat leads to that race, and then when it's done, it's like just enjoy a week of time off. But some people are looking at now going, geez, a lot of money for the event, whatever. And hey, we're not sponsored by Dublin Marathon. You do what you do with your money, but it's a lot more than just a race itself. You're not going to get an event, I don't think, like this anywhere else in the country, where you have those kind of crowds and all there, that kind of atmosphere after it, seeing all the different faces going through their own struggles and stuff. And like you say, there's a ton of different stories of Facebook and Instagram what people go through, what they dedicate the runs to and everything else. It is just a phenomenal thing. I suppose to wrap all that up, that's why they do call it the friendly marathon.
Yeah, and it's people talk about do your Londons, do your Bostons, do your this, do your that. Dublin is just, it's okay, mightn't have the same quantity of crowds, quantity of people, but when you're in a crowd of 2,000 to 3,000 people in a wave that you can see, it is mad. Like even through 30K, you're still surrounded by people running at the same pace. You go and do some of the other marathons or runs, you'd be lucky to see another person at your pace, do you know, depending on the day. And it's absolutely amazing. You just feel like you're part of the herd and you can't stop. You know, there's part of that bringing you along. There's so much, the crowds, the whistling, the DJs. Like, there are other marathons that are very good and enjoyable, but it's a phenomenal experience. If you're thinking of doing one, do Dublin, get into the lottery. Do you know, like
100%.
Imagine going through 20 weeks to do, I'm not going to name a marathon because they'll come after me.
It's the same. Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I'm not getting anywhere near where I'm not putting myself anywhere near where I put myself yesterday or on Sunday, depends when you listen to this, without everything that's involved there. It's cliche, whatever, but it's totally true. Like all the volunteers and everything they do, all the crowds, the thousands and thousands of people that turn up, the atmosphere, everything, like the DJs and music, and not even DJs and music, just random people with beatboxes and beatboxes. Where am I from? But sound systems in their car, whenever, just blasting out songs and stuff, and that makes a big difference. You do get an extra little pep.
Someone at a random point just had a massive speaker playing Coldplay, and I was just like, "Oh, this is brilliant."
Here we go. Yeah, like this is what it's all about, and it is. You don't get that. And there's advantages and disadvantages to other marathons and stuff, and we can pet peeve and take little things that what we didn't like by Dublin, and the bottles or the gels everywhere and everything else, and it does have it's not perfect. It does have its issues, but overall, if you're trying to get one mark to your first marathon, I can't say anything better than Dublin.
Yeah, no, it is good. It's unfortunate that it's such a lottery system and it's come in over the last few years, but
the demand's there for that though. At the same time though, so I mean, unfortunately, it's supposed to be a non-profit thing, so it's like they're not making money off the extra stuff, but the amount that goes into it with the advertising, I'd rather they took a fair bit of stuff out of the goodie bags and all the rest of it a bit cheaper. But that I don't do marketing business like they do, so who am I to judge on that? But it's just a phenomenal event.
Yeah, love it. It was great. Well done to everyone. I know a lot of people who did fantastic times. I know people who showed up with no training and still came through in under 4.5 hours and stuff. There's some phenomenal people. Matt, to mention him, sub 3, 2:57. Absolutely amazing. Stuff I'm jealous of. It's like, oh, I'd love to do it that, but I know how hard he works, and I'm not sure I want to go there just yet. But it's Ozzy came through as well. Minimum training, just shows up, gets it done. Like the resilience some of the people we know have. Bobby, who met us, Marky just went on a training run. There is so many phenomenal people with different stories and different backgrounds, just running the same roads as you. And whether you like it or not, you ran on the same road in the same race as someone who did it in 2:11. You ran the route that some people struggle to win. It's amazing. It is amazing. It's phenomenal to see some of the Irish athletes, the timings they're putting in. When you look at the results and go, whoa, because you now know what it's like to try and run at that pace and how far they have to do it. You get an appreciation for the sport, but you get a medal as well because it's a long way. It is a long way. And I wear my medal. I wore it all the way. I was wearing it on the couch last night because I can't wear it today. It's
gone now. It's gone now. Never wear it again. Gone.
So I nearly wore it in the shower. But
you took that proud finisher a bit too far there, man.
No. It was you've only one day to wear it, and that's today, and wear it yesterday anyway, the day off, so I wasn't taking it off for anything. So yeah, no, it's really good. Well done to everyone. It's phenomenal to see. A lot of people will have done it and they'll say, I am never doing that again. And in the next 2 days they'll make that choice because it comes up fairly quick. And then there's a lot of people who will say, one, that didn't go the way I wanted it, I'm going to try that again, which is a good attitude. And then there's others like myself and yourself that have already got the page open waiting for it to come online tomorrow. It's different for everyone, but It's an absolutely amazing experience. Thanks for everyone who supported on the sidelines, for whoever you were there supporting. For those who shouted out my name because it was on the tag and didn't know me, thanks very much. For the kids who made the signs with the turbo boost hit here, thank you very much. The guy who gave me the banana, didn't know him, but he had a box of 50 bananas. Thank you very much. It's absolutely amazing. It's phenomenal. It was great to see so many just people encouraging each other and pushing each other on, and yeah, absolutely fantastic. And that's why I'll still love it, and I'll do it next year.
To the girl said, my arms are amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you really fast in the face.
Put some tan on them, though. They're fluorescent. Oh my God.
Proper Irish arms, yeah. I can't sum it up any better than you did. So unless you got anything else to add to this week's episode of Any Given Day podcast.
No, that's it.
That's it from the two of us, guys. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for supporting. That's it from the two of us, myself and Eric. Take care.
Bye.